And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Shaping Success, Treasure Valley. I am here with a friend of mine, Chade Leavitt, who I got an opportunity to coach his son in baseball. It's been probably 8 years ago, because I've been out of teaching for a while now. Chade is a realtor with Amherst, Madison. Sorry.
You're good.
It's awesome to have you here, man. You know, one of the things that I noticed about you a long time ago, and I remember having a conversation with you outside Eagle High School baseball stadium about your son Hayden going to go take a flying lesson, and now he's a pilot, right? And you're like, hey, he's going to miss practice today, but I wanted to let you know. And I just people aren't respectful like that anymore. Like, it's like one of those things, like, I feel like that level of respect was something that really set you apart differently from me than other parents that I coached, because it was always the coaches were out there respectful. It just, that before you got here, because that's just something that I think about every time I tried to interact with you on social media and have you over here and get you here on the podcast. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's I think it's one of those things that is, you know, we know how important it is to be a part of a team. Mm-hmm. And in a part of teams, there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of interactions, and everyone is expecting every member of that team to be there the next day and the next day.
Yeah.
And in my eyes, to just be a no-show or to miss is a big deal. And even for like Hayden at that time, he did not like you missing anything. He just didn't like it, you know. But I mean, ever since the dude could talk, he wanted to fly airplanes, you know. And so it was extremely important to him. It was just something he couldn't miss. But I think I do remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that conversation.
It's awesome. So. Like him, I don't even know how he wasn't a freshman. I think he's a sophomore, or he might have been a freshman, because that team that I was coaching was the freshman team.
I think he was a freshman, if I remember right. Honestly, yeah.
And he just, like, you're telling me he's going to go fly, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is the coolest thing ever. This kid is like, you know, 14, 15 years old, and he's going to go fly a plane.
Yeah,
That's just amazing.
Yeah, no, that's very real. He was actually only driving. If I remember right, he was only driving for maybe 6 or 7, maybe 8 months before he started flying. You know, so he knows flying airplanes just as well as he does driving a car.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's pretty wild to think at his
like,
age.
In Idaho, that's what it is. Because I grew up across the border in Oregon, where you had to be 15 to get your learner's permit, 16 to drive.
Yeah.
And these kids are like, what, 13, 14 getting their permit? Like
14 and a half, they can start driving.
It's insane.
It's wild. Yeah. And flying airplanes.
And flying an airplane, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So Shaping Success Treasure Valley is about local people who are entrepreneurs, realtors. They got a lot of hats in the ring and things like that. You sent me over a little bio yesterday, and there was a couple things that kind of interested me, and we'll get into like the real estate and the Spartan races and all those things that you're doing. But
sure, it
was amazing to me that you had said that you were one of, is it 7 kids or 8 kids?
I'm youngest of 7.
Youngest is 7.
Yeah.
So
I have 6 older siblings.
And then you were gone out of the house when you were 15. You'd been on your own since you're 15.
I've been on my own since I was 15. Yeah.
How did that happen? How did that work out?
So it's actually something not a lot of people know. I'm happy to talk about it. So my mom was remarried later on in life to who was my stepdad at the time, and he ran a business that had to take us out of state. Mm-hmm. And throughout our life, we had moved so many times for, you know, multiple reasons. And I was only 15 years old, and I just, like, obviously had my friends, had football going, right? I was running track, like all my most closest friends. I got really tight with everyone in Caldwell there, and I didn't want to leave. Mm-hmm. And little did I know what I was asking for. I basically begged my mom to stay. Mm-hmm. If I could just stay, and you guys can leave, and I'll live with a friend, or I'll stay here or something. Yeah. And I just didn't want to leave. I was bound and determined. And so she let it happen. And now I think, if I'm being honest, she does probably regret that decision. Just because I was young, and I was her youngest, and I was obviously not ready to live on my own, but I did. And there was, I mean, you can imagine, right? I was just sophomore in high school, and my brother's only 2 years older than me, and all his friends, and it was just, it was absolute utter chaos for a couple years, you know. And it was cool at first. And about 30 days in, I remember thinking, man, I miss my mom.
Yeah.
And I miss a good home cooked meal. And I miss what home feels like, you know? And to be honest with you, I never got that feeling back until I got married, and which was a you know, a long, almost 10 years. And so, you know, and I have an amazing relationship with my mom. Nothing against her. I think it was a decision that she made that at the time she probably felt it was right and it was okay. We lived there, and I finished high school, and she, you know, paid the bills and sent us money for food. Like, we were well taken care of. She took very good care of us. She just physically wasn't there, you know.
So you were in your house and just living
house.
in your house with your brothers and sisters?
With one brother,
With one brother.
And we had a couple friends move in, and they paid rent and stuff, and they kind of helped out with obviously taking care of the house and everything. But that was the start of a time in my life where I didn't realize what I was asking for. I just didn't want to move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I
don't
mean,
wanna
it makes
fit
a
the
lot
whole
of sense
thing,
because
right.
like you said, you have all your friends, you have all these people, just like we were talking about with the team sport thing. It's like, you don't want to let these people down. You don't want to let yourself down. And you have to move away and try and figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like,
So-
I could see that feeling of why you wouldn't want to do that.
And that was the thing, is I was close with all my together. And living on your own at that age, yeah, I mean, I would multiple days, because like, mom's not there to wake him up. You got to get to school on time. Like, my junior year, I missed 2 days. My senior year, I only missed 1 day.
Yeah.
And the biggest reason was because if I stayed home, I'm by myself. I got nothing to do, right? All my friends were at school, so I went to school every day.
Right. Yeah. You
know?
have nothing to come home to.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. So it was a big piece of my life that I missed tremendously. And I realized that as I got a little bit older, 17, 18, and I just, because that, like, Christmases, I never had a Christmas tree, right? There were no presents. Like, my mom sent us a few things, which is awesome. We went out to her place because she moved to Missouri. We went out to Missouri a couple times to spend Christmas with her.
A long way away.
Yeah, it was a long ways away. And so, but it was different. It was very different. You know, my friends' parents were constantly inviting me over to eat dinner because they knew it wasn't the best scenario, you know, for like high school kids and stuff. And so it was, I look back and it was pretty wild, you know, and there was a lot of good in there as well, and learning moments and stuff, but it was pretty wild. Yeah. Without getting too deep on, you know,
no,
whatever,
it makes sense.
but
I appreciate you sharing that, because I know I just kind of sprung that on you. So sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Yeah. It's totally fine.
So you finish high school, and then what do you do? Because now, you know, I know you from driving around and seeing your name on all these real estate signs, and a lot of people don't like, I mean, they're all over the place. I remember looking, you know, probably 10 years ago. Well, I don't know, Purple Sage Estates hasn't been around that long, but your name was on those signs, and my realtor was like, yeah, that's Chade Leavitt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't know you at that time.
Right.
But, you know, your name's there. So did you get into real estate like right after, or what? I mean, you've only been a realtor for a few years, so, or not a few years.
Yeah, no. So I've been in real estate for 12 years now. I just hit 12 years a couple weeks ago. But yeah, after high school, I got a couple random jobs, worked for some local companies here. Some good friends of mine own the companies. I worked for them, and I met my wife at my best friend's wedding. So my best friend, literally, this is no joke. My best friend married her best friend, and I was in his wedding. Yeah. Right. And we ended up walking down the aisle together. My wife and I did. And you know, that was literally the first time I met her, was about 3 days before the wedding. And just kind of got to know her when the wedding, the party, and dance and the whole thing. It was a fun night. And then we just kind of stayed in touch and kept hanging out. And then before I know it, we were dating, and then, you know, we ended up getting married, and like the whole thing, it just kind of rolled and happened. I feel like it was very fast, you know, and I mean, it was pretty quick, but, you know, and then we had Hayden right away, you know, and I think Hayden was about 9 months old, and we built our first house. My wife is, her name's Vicky. She's always been in real estate lending. She's in mortgage lending. Right. She started off as a teller when she was like 17 in the banking industry. And she kind of worked her way up, and she's been doing residential lending for, man, I want to say it's 27 years or so now, 28 years maybe. And while she was in that, there was a point where I started working at a title company. So I was kind of in the real estate industry, but I was working at the title company, and I worked my way up. I was an escrow officer, and I was an escrow officer for, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. And then the crash in 2007 happened,
Yep.
and which was awful. And I had a fairly large salary at the time, because I had switched companies, and the other company, they made me an offer I just couldn't refuse, and so I had a pretty large salary at the time, and with everything was literally in the first round of layoffs.
That's the worst too, right? Like when they're trying to cut, they're going to cut the person who's the highest, or who's taking the most money, because they can take these other people who are making less and make them do more.
Yeah, like I was laid off with our runners, like our guys that drive the deliveries around the whole valley. Like I was in with that mix of guys. Like there was like 8 or 9 of us that all went, and I think I was the only escrow officer at the time that went. And some other ones hang out for a while, but then they ended up going too. It was just it was a really hard time, and so I got another job. It only lasted there for like maybe a year and a half or so, and then that industry started to fail as well. And I just wasn't. It was 100% commission, all sales job, and it just wasn't. It wasn't paying the bills. I mean, I was making the same amount as we were paying for daycare at the time.
Oh man.
So my wife and I talked, and we just said, you know what? Why don't I just stay home with the kids, and she would continue to go to work and do mortgages. And so I did. So I was a stay-at-home dad for like a year and a half with my kids. I think Hayden was 5 or so, and Lainey was like 3, 3.5. No, I guess 2.5. And
how
so
did that had? I can only imagine, because like that would be tough. It would drive me insane.
Listen,
you have
I love my kids more than life itself, and I look back, and it was a really fun time. Like we had our set days. Like Tuesdays we'd hit the water park.
Yeah.
Like Thursdays we'd hit the zoo. Or it's like I just had like the set schedule. But like cooking was on me. I'm a terrible cook.
Yeah.
Laundry was on me. Like the yard work was on me. Everything, all the house stuff, right?
Yep.
Was all on me, and take care of the kids. And like I think Hayden was in kindergarten at the time, and so going to and from school and just homework and like all that. It was pretty wild.
I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Mr. Mom, but that's just like where like Michael Keaton stays at home. It's like oh my gosh.
That's what I felt like. Yeah, it was wild. And so and my wife, man, bless her heart, she did amazing with her job. I mean, at one point in 2009 or 2010, I think she was literally the only mortgage loan officer in the entire city of Caldwell, except for the banks. She was the only standalone mortgage loan officer, and she was still just she does very well.
Is that the way that it was? I mean, and I'm going to say back then, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
But like, is that the way it was in Caldwell? Because Caldwell's grown. Like this whole community obviously has grown huge. Is it
a lot?
Just the way it was, or was the economy so bad that like everyone who was in lending just like, I'm not doing this anymore?
Basically, man, everyone that I can remember, minus maybe a couple names that were in the banks, like literally that had a desk inside of a bank with the walk-in traffic and stuff, everyone got out.
Yeah, they were just
it was as far as like lending to real estate, man, it was a ghost town.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember hearing stories of like a lot of the real estate companies, they were canceling like the water Colligan guy and their coffee guy and their guys would bring the supplies by once a month. Everything was getting canceled just because they couldn't. They just couldn't make the payments. Like it just was. They just had to start.
It was crazy.
The fat,
like it's
and
surprising that it wasn't that long ago, but like it was something that was a real thing, and the mortgage industry was the thing that took the hit.
It was
the most.
real. Yeah. No, 100%. And it was like, it was literally. I remember when I was in escrow. I remember it was July of 2007. Man, I remember like it was yesterday. It was literally like they just shut the lights off.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like the phones quit ringing, emails quit coming, orders quit coming. No one was selling anything anymore. I started seeing a lot of our local realtors that I knew so well from being in the industry in the title side of things, and they would be at Costco. They'd be at. I remember seeing some like working at like Subway and Dairy Queen and gas stations or wherever, just because they had to make it, right?
Yeah.
They had to go do something, and it wasn't anything that they did wrong. It's just that industry was gone for a while.
Yeah.
And so, luckily, and Vicki did such a good job with what she does and staying in touch with her people. She stayed in front of everybody, and she just nailed it. I mean, year after year, and she kept us afloat.
Which is awesome because like she had two choices, right? It was kind of the same thing. It's like you come to this crossroads and you're like, what am I doing? Like, this is not going anywhere. I can be the leader in this in my area.
Yeah.
And when we get out of this, then she's going to be on top of the world even more because she's been there and people have trusted and been behind her.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. I mean, and it was, we saw it coming. So we basically, we had to go hit the big red reset button. Like I sold my truck. We had a travel trailer, sold the trailer. We sold all kinds of stuff. We sold some valuables. Like our one and only main concern was protecting our kids and not losing our house. And we didn't lose our house. We were able to make our payments. We didn't even go to that loan program thing where they drop your rate. Like we just made it, you know, and it was all thanks to her and her hard work, you know. Meanwhile, I'm at home, like doing my daughter's pigtails and like, you know, like coloring books and the whole thing.
Right.
So anyway, so that lasted for about a year and a half. And like I said, love my kids to death, but I had to do something. I had to go get a job. And so, a friend of mine was working out at the prison out in Boise, and he just mentioned it to me one day. So I applied, got hired on at the Boise, and I worked maximum security prison out in Boise for a year, and then I transferred out to Ontario.
Okay.
And I worked at Snake River out there for another like 3.5 years.
What year was that?
So I started off in maximum security in Boise. I started in, I think it was like late 2009. And I was there for a year, so 2010, and then I got licensed in 2012. So from 10 to 12, I was in Ontario.
I got to talk to my mom because I don't know. We've never had this conversation before, but my mom did a lot of the hiring at the Ontario prison because I grew up in Ontario.
Oh, really?
So you may know her.
I could.
You may like her. You may not. I don't know.
I could have.
Yeah.
So I worked out there for about 2.5 years. The work was fun, so to say. It was difficult.
Right.
It's like there are a lot of women that work out there and they do a fantastic job, but it's like it's a guy's job. You know, it's rough and tough, and you're pepper spraying people and you're getting in fights and breaking up fights and watching out for everything, like keeping yourself safe, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a wild job, but the schedule is what killed me because I was graveyard. I was day shift for a very short stint, but I was like swing shift, which is the worst shift. Thing, right? And
then you go home and you go to sleep and wake up again and do it again.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I'd take off to work before my kids get off the bus.
Yeah.
And then I'd get home and they're already asleep.
Right.
You know, and so I would wake up, see them for like 30, 40 minutes before they go to school, and I wouldn't see them again for 24 hours. Yeah. It was really hard. You know, it was really hard on me because I consider myself a family guy. I love my family to death. I love being with my kids and my wife, and I had a hard time with that. And the whole entire time, this is kind of the wild, you know, kind of thing. Part of the whole story is the whole entire time I worked at the prison, my wife was trying to talk me into getting my real estate license. Mm-hmm. She's like, you got to do it. You'd be so good. You got to do it. Like, people love you. And she was on me constantly. And I was hesitant because she was in the industry. Yeah. I didn't know what it'd like for us to be both in the same industry, doing sales, doing the whole thing. Plus, the majority of her business was from realtors. Yeah. And so I was afraid she was going to lose a lot of business as soon as I got in. So the schedule out there really took a toll and it really beat me down. And there was one night, man, I remember like it was yesterday. I was leaving for work. I was on graveyard. It was like 9:30 at night, and my kids were begging me to not go to work. Mm-hmm. They just wanted me to stay home and hang out with them. Yeah. And I was leaving. It's in full uniform, and I had my lunch, right, and everything. And I said goodbye to the kids, and my daughter started to cry. And she's sitting in the center island. I head to the garage, and I'm like, hey, I'll see you in the morning, you know, because when I would get off, I would get home and basically wake everyone up to get ready for school and, you know, the whole thing. So I was like, I'll just see you. You know, you're going to go to bed. I'll see you in a few hours. It'll be here before you know it. Hayden started getting upset. Dad, just stay home with us tonight, right? And so as I was leaving, I remember I opened the door to walk out, and I looked back, and my daughter looked at me like lasers right in my eyes. And she was crying, and she just stared at me. She didn't say a word. She was crying. She just stared at me. And I shut the door as I was looking at her eyes. And I knew in that moment I had to make a change. Yeah. I could not ever see that face again on Hayden or Lainey. I couldn't. And so I heard him shut the door because I was starting to get emotional. Yeah. And I got in my car, and I was like borderline crying on the way to work, to go work in a prison, right? Yeah. I'm like, it's not the right emotion to be hanging on to while you're walking inside of prison walls, right?
Yeah.
And that was the night that I decided. And so I got online, I looked up a real estate school, and I just like, well, you know, my wife is usually right. So
Isn't it annoying?
it's very annoying. She's usually right. So I thought, you know what? I guess let's just see what happens. And so she was right. And I got licensed about a month later. I started taking the night classes out in Boise, and it took about 6 weeks to get through the schooling. And then I passed the test and got licensed in, late summer, fall of 2012. I had planned on waiting until spring to leave the prison and just kind of take advantage of the spring rush in real estate because things get so busy during the spring, right? And I got licensed, and then I had my first listing like week 1. I had another set of buyers like week 2, right? I had 2 or 3 deals like right out of the gate, right? And so I'd closed like 3 deals basically immediately, right? With some help of like people in my office because I had no idea what I was doing, right? I was learning. And just those 3 deals had paid me what I would have made at the prison waiting until spring.
Oh, man.
So I left for work one night, and I called my supervisor. His name's Joe, one of the greatest dudes I've ever met. And I called him and I said, Joe, I'm out. Like, I'm going all in. I'm not looking back. And I remember thinking, I saw my daughter's face, that look on her face, you know, and I had just made up my mind, and I was going to go all in. So that phone call was my 2-week notice.
Yep.
And I finished the 2 weeks. And I remember that last morning that I was walking out, because I was still on graveyard, that last morning, one of my sergeants grabbed me. He was also my trainer out there like 3 years prior. And he grabbed me and he said, hey, you know, you did such a good job out here. If the real estate thing doesn't work out, we will bring you back. Like, we'll accept you to come back. So come on back. You got a plan B.
Yeah.
And I shook his hand. I kind of laughed and I said, there is no plan B.
There is no plan B.
There's not. Because I had to make it work.
Right.
I just had to, like, for my kids' sake, you know, in my marriage, like, I didn't see my wife for, I felt like the longest time. We weren't sleeping in the same bed at the same time of day. Like, it was just, it was chaos, man. I was like, it was hard. You know, it was a really hard few years. And I don't think I realized how hard it was until I was out of it.
Right.
You know, it was one of those things. Once you get out of the woods, I think you realize how thick the woods are.
It's really like freeing. I mean, working at the company that I worked at before, like I sat there and you can think about like how much security you have, right? And like how you're staying there because it's something that you feel comfortable with and it's okay and it's this and that. And then when you walk away, and I've done this like a couple times because I worked at Les Schwab, I was a teacher.
Yeah.
I worked at this other window covering company before I started my own window covering company. And it was just like, the first time you do it is probably the toughest time ever to do anything, because there's a lot of people who will sit there and tell you that you can't do it. It won't work. Why would you do that? Why would you take this risk?
Yeah.
And then when you do it, you're like, man, this is the most freeing thing ever. And then to be able to go into business for yourself, because that's essentially what you're doing. You don't have to rely on anyone anymore.
Yeah.
You have to rely on yourself.
Yeah.
And like, I would way rather have that power to rely on myself than to rely on someone else to feed me.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is 100% what real estate is.
Yeah.
You're on your own. You're on your own. Even if you're on a team, because there's a lot of real estate teams out there that are very successful. They do great things. You're still on your own.
Yeah.
Because they're not just going to hand business over to you.
No.
You know, it is very difficult to get a real estate deal and to get it put together and have both sides be happy and on the same page and agree to everything. Like, it's like every transaction is widely different, you know, but just to get that deal, to get those people to trust in you with their finances and their investment, it's a bigger deal than a lot of people realize.
Yeah.
You know, I've had a lot of people over the years ask me what it's like to get into real estate and how I don't want to say how I made it, because I wouldn't say I made it. I don't like that term, but like how I've done it for so long. And it's it was always a conversation that I'd have with people that would call me, and I would just make it sound like the absolute worst career ever. I'd make it sound like extremely scary.
Yeah.
because I didn't want to be responsible for making it all sugar coated and it's this great thing and you're on your own, it's your own set schedule and you can do this and you can take vacations whenever you want and all these things. But the reality is you probably won't close your first house in the first 12 months.
Yeah.
You just won't. Unless you're in a market like we had in 2020, where things were just wild and not normal, because 2020 was not normal, right?
Yeah.
We had a lot of real estate agents get in 2020, and all the ones that came in 2020 just to feed off that frenzy are now out of it. They're not in anymore because you got to work for it.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I have a lot of friends that I was watching people get into real estate, and I had a bunch of friends who got into it. It's like you don't see they fall off, like they just were gone.
Yeah.
The ones that stay the course are the ones who have made it through those hard times. And like right now, it's amazing to me how good the economy looks on paper. But it's like, I mean, if you want to know what it's like, just go look at the real estate thing. Like houses are not like, at that point in time, it was like the house goes on, the house goes off, right?
Yeah.
Now we're like 60 days before a house even closes.
Easily. Oh yeah. No, we're 60, 70, 90 days for something that a few years ago would have sold in a few hours.
Right.
You know, and even go back like 10 years, take it back to 2015, it'd still sell in 30, 40, 50 days, you know. And right now things are 70, 80, 90 days, 100 plus days. I mean, I have clients that call me and they're like, hey, I'm kind of eyeballing this house. It's been on for 100 days, 110 days. What's wrong with it? Someone just asked me that last week.
Yeah, right.
What's wrong with it? And I said, I don't think anything's wrong with it, but we should probably go see it if you want to go see it. Like, don't go in with the expectation of something's wrong just because it's still in the market.
Yeah.
Just the right person hasn't found it yet. And that's
there's not like an influx of thousands. And they're choosy more. They're choosing more.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's not as hot and heavy as it was. I mean, people are still coming from out of state, you know, and a lot of in-state moving and, you know, all that. But yeah, it's difficult. It is absolutely not an easy career to be in. It's just not, you know. So the ones that do well and make it, I think it's because they were bound and determined to win. They're bound and determined in doing the right things and making right connections. And, you know, I mean, success is built in relationships 100%. Right. And if you don't have good relationships, you won't be successful. You cannot be successful by yourself. I don't care
I think that's
who you are or what you do. You cannot be successful by yourself. You have to have a team of sorts. You have to have other partners in some sense of the word, you know, and so you have to have people around you to help you win, and you're helping them win, you know, and it just goes in a circle, you know. So
yeah, it's interesting because I feel like that's the way it is with anything. Like, and one of the things that I love about doing these local ones again and having people in here that are in the community is like I actually get to sit down and like talk to them and kind of pick their brain. And it's funny because I want to share what you're doing with everyone else, but like it's more about me wanting to know, you know, it's great to me to have to get to hear those stories and to see like, oh, well, why'd you do that? And then what'd you do this for? And then like other people are able to understand the thought process of what it takes. And it's like, I always go back for me, like baseball is one of those deals where it's like, it's the easiest thing to say. And I say it all the time about, you know, like a good player's 300 hitter, which is like 3 out of 10. And like if you, if you're willing to just lose a little bit, you're going to win. Yeah.
No, that's true. It's funny because I was actually just talking to my broker about this a few months ago. I don't track my sales as I go throughout the year. I just go. Yeah. You know, I mean, I set a goal, like I have a goal for this year of total number of sales I want to hit. But I don't like constantly check and where am I at? Where like if you asked me today, I'd probably guess about where I'm at in total sales, but I wouldn't know the exact number to the million. I just wouldn't. Right. Yeah. And so, but it's one of those things where you set a goal and you just put your head down and you start going forward. Right. You know, you just have to be determined about it, and you have to be disciplined about it. And you have to give yourself a goal and keep in touch with your people and constantly move forward. Like that's all you can do is just constantly move forward and on to the next. And so a few years ago, as I mentioned, a few years ago, I decided to pull up my own name in the MLS. And I had never done this before. Yeah. And I think I clicked on like canceled and withdrawn or like whatever, you know, the ones that show basically the ones that didn't work out. Yeah. And that had my name associated with it. It was pages of houses.
That hurts, right? Like
I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Right. And I'm like thinking, I'm a fairly successful real estate agent. Like I do okay. I'm not way up here. Right. Yeah. And I do the best I can. But I was like, it was page like cancel. And I'm like, wow, right? And I'm seeing the addresses, and I'm like, I remember that deal. And it was like, 4 pages on the. And I was like, click next. Like, I couldn't believe it. But that's like what you just said. 3 out of 10 in baseball world is amazing. You're batting 300. Dude, you're something special, right?
You can't even get guys to do that anymore anyway. It's
right.
Like, who bats 300 anymore?
Yeah.
There's
so
like
then,
2 guys.
Yeah. So then I realized at that time, I'm like, man, I feel like I'm losing more than I'm winning. Mm-hmm. But some of the wins are huge wins. And I don't mean like in sales or whatever. Like a huge win to me is closing the deal and the people being super happy with everything that worked out the way that it did. And I build a friendship and I stay in touch with them. That's a win to me.
Yeah. They call you back.
They call me back. They refer me to their family, friend, and neighbor, whoever, right? Like that's a win for me. And you get a lot of really big wins in that aspect and different connections, different friendships. And then in the middle of all that are like business opportunities. Like I sold a house on 10 acres out here in Middleton to a friend of mine at the time. We weren't like really close. We kind of knew each other. Our kids were the same ages and stuff. You probably know who he is. And we closed on it. We went and did our final walkthrough on the house the day of closing. And he's on 10 acres. I'm like, hey, guy, what are you going to do with 10 acres? Like, what's your plan? He's like, I don't know, probably get some cows or something. And he goes, have you ever raised cows before? And I'm like, once. I've raised 4. I'm like, I've raised 4 cows. And he goes, well, what do you say? You want to go in the cow business with me? And I'm like, are you being serious? He goes, yeah, let's start buying some Angus and we'll raise them here and we'll sell them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here we are. 6 or 7 years later, we're still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was just because I sold them the property and it went well and they were extremely happy and it's a beautiful home, and now we created a business together. We raise Angus together and we sell beef every fall to a lot of local families and stuff. Yeah. And it's a lot of fun. It's just another way to kind of connect with people and provide food to be in their homes. It's just something we have fun with.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's the thing. It's like people who have that like kind of entrepreneurial spirit are like always looking for something, right? Like, and never not shutting it down completely, but always listening. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, you always got to be willing to just kind of listen just a little bit. Doesn't mean that you have to do anything, but like, you never know what that could turn into. Yeah. Right.
You need to listen more than you speak.
Yeah, exactly.
You just have to. You got to be a good listener and really hearing what's being said and taking it in, because there are those opportunities that will pass you by if you're not listening. You miss it. There are a lot of opportunities out there that can pass you by if you're just not paying attention.
Yeah, and I mean it's funny when back to like when you're working at the prison, like when I went back to school, when I went back to college to become a teacher, like I had worked at Les Schwab for 11 years changing tires, and I go back to school to be a teacher, and I walk in and I'm a transporter at St. Luke's for part-time while I'm going to college, and working those fun shifts that are like 2 to 10 or whatever, and then you get home really late, and I didn't have kids at the time, so it wasn't that big of a deal, but like you do those things, and like one of the ladies that I worked with is like, there's 2 places you want to work. And it goes back to like my parents thinking about like telling me to go get an education, go do this, go do that. And they hate when I tell them this, but it's like, I don't think you need a college degree. I really don't. I think you can be successful without that. But like the prison and the hospital system are the 2 best places that you can work because they're always going to be there. And it was funny how they said that, but like that's the mentality that people had growing up. Like my grandfather owned a hardware store, and they're telling their kids to go to college because this isn't very fruitful and go do this, and they end up not going. And they just want that generation that we came from, like, go to college. If you don't go to college, you're never going to make any money. You're never going to be whatever. But the reality is you can be making money doing whatever. You just have to work for it. Mm-hmm. And we got told we had to do this. Now you go get a communications degree to flip burgers. It's like, why?
Yeah. Yeah. I know a handful of people from high school that went on and got degrees in whatever. And they literally, to this day, they have nothing to do with that degree. They just never made something of it.
I got a master's degree, and I taught for 4 years. Yeah. And I was done. I'm not doing this. And done. People, the one way to measure things is money. Like I made way more money doing what I'm doing now than I ever did teaching. And you can sit there and you can say that you do it because you love it, but on the same hand, you have to provide for your family, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think there's a lot of kids that go to college just to have the college experience,
right?
Not for the reason of college.
Yep.
which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, like watching your daughter like kind of go through college and stuff like that, which was super cool to be able to go play softball. Like
Oh,
that's
it
an
was
experience
awesome.
that like, why would
Yeah,
you miss
man.
that? You know?
Yeah, and that's kind of a different scenario when you add sports into it, of course, because you know she had literally dedicated her whole life to sports, softball and basketball, and it was all she knew. It's all she just would breathe and eat and sleep is softball and basketball, year round, and we always told her that if you're gonna be this committed, like you have to be committed.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to kind of be 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know, I mean, if you're committed, you know what summer ball looks like.
Right.
Literally traveling every weekend, out of state, every single weekend for almost 8 weeks straight. And then school starts back up.
Yeah.
You know, like you're going to miss out on birthday parties. You're going to miss out on camping trips and hiking and going to the lake with your friends every weekend. And she understood it, and she also knew that she had a gift, you know, and so she definitely used it to the best of her ability. And basketball was her true love. Mm-hmm. That was what she was the most in love with, so to say, with sports. She enjoyed it the most. It was super physical. She's a really tough girl, you know, and very muscular. And she's not like crazy tall, but she's tall enough to compete, you know, on the court and everything. And she did really well. But softball, she knew she was better at softball, and it would probably take her further as far as collegiate sports go, and maybe get an offer, scholarship and stuff. And so her freshman year, she tore her ACL, and that obviously put her down for quite a while. And she came back, and she fought.
She tore it again, didn't she?
She tore her other one 2 years
in high
later,
school, right?
her junior year.
Oh.
Yeah. So now she's got 2 torn ACLs.
Yeah.
And so the wild part of that story was the weekend prior, her club softball team, we were down in Scottsdale, Arizona, and Grand Canyon University was there to watch her play. And they watched her play, and the assistant coach comes up to me and she says, "Hey, we're having practice tomorrow on Monday, and we really like Lainey at third base. Why don't you guys come out to the school and have her practice with our third base girls and just spend a couple hours with them? We want to see how Lainey holds against, you know, our girls at third base."
Uh-huh.
So it was during a blackout period, so she couldn't talk to Lainey directly because she was a D1 coach, and there's like blackout dates, you know. And so then I had to go to Lainey and say, "Hey, what do you think?" And she was like, "Dad, I got this assignment." Right? And she's like worried about some assignment, whatever it was. And she was like, "I can go next Monday." So we looked at the schedule and it worked out. We're like, "All right, cool." So I went back to that coach and I said, "Hey, we can't this week, but we will come next week. We'll stay." I think we were in Southern California the following weekend, and we were just going to pop over to Phoenix and then come home on Tuesday. So I'm like, "All right, we'll see you next week." That Thursday, she tore her ACL. It was 4 days later she tore her ACL in the court.
Yeah.
She went down. I ran out onto the court, and I kind of looked over her, and I remember she looked right at me, and she goes, "Dad, what about GCU?" That was the first thing she said to me laying
That's
on the
all
court.
she cared about.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh my gosh," right? My heart just was ripped out of my chest.
Yeah.
And I just said, "We're not going to worry about that right now. We got to get you off this court."
Yeah.
And so we took her in the back, and she was 100% sure that she tore it.
Yeah.
Because she'd already been through it once.
Right.
And so she was bound and determined. That was the school that she wanted to play for. There just wasn't another school that interested her like Grand Canyon did. And man, talk about like grit and determination and discipline. She just didn't give up.
Yeah.
She never missed a PT session with Rock and Armor out in Meridian. She just didn't miss. And she took it so seriously that even she had surgery in November, like a few days before Thanksgiving. Like two months later in January, Grand Canyon was holding like a camp basically, and said like, "Come one, come all if you're within these ages," or whatever. Well, she had obviously called the coach and said, "Hey, I tore my ACL," and they're like, "Hey, just get better. You got some time. Like, you know, we'll talk to you later." She went to the camp in January in a knee brace, and she just wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And they were standing in a big circle talking to the coach, and he's like, you know, looking around talking to the girls, and he sees Lainey in the knee brace, and he was like, what in the world are you doing here? He's like, why are you here? And she's just like, this feels like home to me. I just want to be here. So in her making that decision to be there and just be a part of it, it actually worked out fantastic for her because he used her behind home plate. She just fed him balls while he was hitting to the girls and doing drills and stuff.
She got to pick his brain the whole
So she
time.
picked his brain. They talked. He got to ask her a lot of personal questions like family life, home basketball, right? All this stuff.
Yeah.
And she basically hung out with the head coach for like 3 hours that day.
Yeah, that's like the best. If you can't do it, it's like the best place to be.
Oh, it was ingenious. It was
Yeah.
ingenious. And like you couldn't get out on the field, but I'm going to make sure coach knows that I'm here and I'm interested and I'm going to get over this, you know? And so she obviously she gets better. She goes through her senior year. Things were great. And then one night after a basketball game at like 10 o'clock at night, there's that same coach calls her on her cell phone and offers her right there on the spot.
That's awesome.
It was unreal. It was just unbelievable, you know, when I think a lot of people had counted her out and a lot of people just thought she was done, you know, and she just wasn't going to make it. And her dream school called her after, you know, massive walk again.
Right.
You retrain your quad how to fire. Like anyone that knows what it's like to tear an ACL, man, it's tough.
Yeah.
And she did it twice, and she still made it to the school of her dreams.
And still played.
She still played,
Yeah.
and she did well. And she had some knee pain, you know, whatever going through it, but she toughed it out every single day, you know, and it was incredible. So it's a really, really good story for her and something that she'll look back on for the rest of her life, you know, and say that an injury didn't stop me.
Right.
And this didn't stop me either.
Yeah,
like,
that's
I knew I was going to – she just knew she was going to get there. She just knew it.
Yeah.
You know, we all had our doubts, and we're like, I don't know. Because there was about a 4-month stretch where she couldn't get the coaches to text her back.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just determined, like, no, I'm going to text him. I'm going to try to call him, or I'm going to shoot him an email. It was like boom, 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 right? And then all of a sudden, literally 10 o'clock at night,
Here you go.
head coach calls her. Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was a great story.
That's awesome, man. So you know, now you've changed brokerages, right? So now you're with Amherst.
Yeah, Amherst, Madison, Boise.
Yep.
Yeah, been with them
And-
just over 2 years now.
And how do you like that? What one of the things that I noticed, like with realtors, and I haven't seen this with you, but like, you know, I think you probably only work for 2 brokerages, right?
Yeah, just 2.
Yeah, there's
Yep.
a lot of them that change like every 6 months, right? Like
A lot
they
of them
bounce around.
jump and jump and jump and jump. And I'm not going to sit here and say that's good or bad because I don't know. I don't do it. When I feel like when I make a decision, I'm committed, and I just stay with it for as long as possible and I stick it out, you know, and I look through the bad to see the good. And there's a reason why I decided to leave, you know, the prior brokerage, and I had already pretty much knew where I was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to sit down with Nick, my broker. I wanted to sit down with him and just have a conversation with him, just to see how he was as a person. I'd never met him in person before.
Yeah.
I knew a lot of agents that worked there, and I had some deals with a lot of them, and all were great. Like, they were great deals.
Yeah.
Paperwork wise, everything was clean. Everyone was responsive. Like, it was just, they always seemed like a great company to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
Transactionally,
Yeah.
seemed to go well. Set up an appointment with Nick, and 5 to 10 minutes in our conversation, I knew that's where I had to be.
No, it was.
I
Yeah,
just knew
that's-
it. I
That's,
just knew it.
It's funny how, you know, like you were talking about, like walking down the aisle with your wife, and like it's kind of like there it is, that clicks, right? Like
Yeah,
it's one of those
yeah.
things that like when you know,
Yeah.
and that's when you find that good fit. And
Yeah.
that's just a great.
Yeah, no,
way to
it's
look at it.
like the atmosphere in the office is it's awesome. Super, super sweet office, very clean, you know, like a lot of like black and white colors, and it's just like glass everywhere, and it's like it's that office. you
Yeah,
know? I think
it's-
it's that office that
it's pretty
everyone
cool
wants to be a
looking.
part of. Yeah, it's sweet, you know, and he's got a good thing going there. And then the very next week, I called up Matt Bauscher, and I had lunch with him, you know, and I picked his brain on a lot of things where I knew I was already coming, but I just wanted to have lunch with Matt,
Yeah.
and kind of chat some things out. And we covered a lot of topics, man, and it was great. And so that had sealed the deal. And the very next morning, you know, I made the change and cleaned out my old office and switched over and went. And
Yeah.
Nick was nice enough to buy all my new signs for me and everything, you
Oh,
know,
nice.
which I didn't need to, but it was nice of him.
Yeah.
It was a great gesture. And so and then we just hit the ground running, and it's been great ever since. But it's a great office to be a part of. It really is.
So you got that. You got some land developing stuff going on. What's next for you? What are you gonna do? What do you It's funny when you talked about like looking at that list of people who canceled, like you never look at that. And I think that that's one of the things that I love to do is that I started out in the business that I'm in now. Like when I first got there, it's like I'm comparing myself to the next guy. And it was a really bad feeling. Like it always made me feel that way. And so like, I feel like that's kind of the same thing. Like you sit there and you look at that all the time, it's going to make you get in a real negative headspace because you're like, what about all these ones that I didn't get?
Yeah.
And we do this weighting thing with negative stuff where it weighs more than something that's positive, right? So like you may have had 40 transactions that didn't go through, but you've had like thousands that have in those 40 transactions, which is stupid in my mind, but I've been there. Like I've thought that way. What kind of keeps you out of that? And what makes you think, it's that competing with yourself really is what it is, right?
Yeah, it is. And I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't, I think human nature, we do compare ourselves to other people naturally. I try my best to not compare myself to anyone except for myself 2 years ago or myself 5 years ago.
Right.
And I compare myself to myself 5 years from now. And if I can legitimately look back and see where I was 2 to 3 years ago, and if I feel like I'm the same, then something's got to change.
Right.
Right. If I don't feel like I've grown or had enough experiences or taken enough risks, something's got to change.
Yeah.
I got to do something better. I got to work harder. Right. I got to dig deeper. I got to take more risks than something. I got to make a change. And so personally, I feel like I'm pretty good at not comparing myself to the next guy because I know behind that Instagram page, there's a lot of faults.
Right. There's
Tough marriages. There's tough, maybe family lives. So there's tough, real estate's tough. I know what it's like to be in real estate, right? It's extremely difficult. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that we deal with that no one ever hears about that is just awful to deal with, and so I try my best to just compare myself to myself. And, my level of composure, I obviously try to be the best example I can to my kids, and like I have a great relationship with my wife. Like we spend a lot of time together. We travel together all the time. Like basically everything we do, we really do together, except the only thing we really don't do are like my Spartan races that I run. She's always like, go
I'm not doing that. You're on your
she's
own.
like, I want, and I've asked her like, just come, like, at least just come watch. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and so,
but that's one of those things that you're challenging yourself to just be better. That's all there is to it. It's like, that's
totally. Yeah. So it's a daily challenge to myself to be better and give myself big goals, that I want to hit. Like there's one of my goals this year, that my family and I, we're really good goal setters, right? And so at the beginning of every single year, we review our goals from last year, and we open, like the four of us, we set a date and a time. It's like a family dinner date, right? And we kind of crowd together in the living room and we discuss our goals from last year. We pull them all out line by line. I said this, did I do it? I didn't do it. Why didn't you do it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I said this and I did it. What helped you get to that goal, right? And, sometimes we'll do categories of like family, relationships, friendships, finances, work, right? All these things, health, fitness, the whole thing, right? And so the four of us sit down every single year and we write goals, and then we'll write goals for this upcoming year. And then again, we'll go around the four of us and we'll talk about all of our goals for the year and what we want to reach. Well, one of my goals that I had set for this year, I changed it about middle of March because I was coming up on it so rapidly. I knew I was going to hit it.
Yeah.
And so I text my family and I said, hey, I just want y'all to know I changed this goal from where it was to now it's here.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to just go, dude, I smoked that one. I hit it in June, right? And no, I'm changing it. Now I'm going to make it twice as hard as I thought it was going to be because I didn't realize I was going to move that fast, right? And so that's where I'm constantly trying to compete with myself on that level where I don't want to just hit a goal just to hit it. Like I want to be stressed that last quarter of the year for getting such and such goal. Like that's where I feel like we grow.
Yeah.
Is in those is in those dire straight situations where I'm like, I've got to make this happen. What do I have to do?
Yeah.
Rather than, I hit that goal back in June. I'm chilling.
Yeah, now I'm
right?
done. Now I'm just going to
I
coast.
hate that. I hate that feeling. I hate that mentality. So I changed it, and I let everyone know in the family. I said, hey guys, I changed it. This is where it was. This is where it's at now.
Yeah.
Now I got the work to do. Right. So that was back in March. So because I changed it, I still got a long ways to go. And I know what the second half of my year needs to look like in order to hit it.
Yeah.
You know?
Great stuff, man. I really appreciate you coming in here and sitting down. I think that a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this. I mean, it's just awesome to sit there and think about all the things that you can do to just make yourself better and what you're doing and how you're pushing through it. And
Thank you.
It's awesome. If anyone wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
So I'm just pretty simple. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, just at Chade Leavitt. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy. Just at Chade Leavitt. And I'm at Amherst, Madison, and Boise. And most of business I do is in the Middleton area. I sell a lot in Star and Caldwell. I mean, I'm all over the valley, but most of what I do is development, new construction. I sell for builders, here in the area, and obviously a lot of resale and stuff. So just right here in the Middleton area,
things like that. I think that's the big thing. Like, is there's so many different options that you have and opportunities to be successful in whatever you're doing. You just have to go out there and just find them and keep moving forward.
Discipline. It's all discipline. It's not even. That's where I'm going long here. Sorry, but
no, you're fine.
Discipline. Like a lot of people just think it's motivation, right?
Yeah.
Motivation to me is like a great song.
Yeah.
Motivation to me is listening to a guy up on the stage. That's motivation. Makes you feel good.
Right.
But man, feeling good doesn't pay the bills,
It
right?
doesn't do the
Feeling good
action.
doesn't close a deal. Feeling good doesn't help that person find the next home or sell that home for them. It's the discipline. The discipline is physically getting the work done. And we have to be disciplined in what we do in our goal setting or whatever it is. If you want to lose weight, if you want to gain weight or gain muscle or any of those things, it's all under discipline. It's not motivation. And I think that's what a lot of people get wrong about what motivation is. Motivation's a really good song. That's how I break it down.
Yeah, it's
right?
just something that inspires
Discipline
you to do
it's
the
in the
thing
work.
that you need to do.
It's in the work. Yeah. Motivation's like, hey, I had a great idea. But discipline is going out and running the 5 miles that you've been knowing you should have been doing a long time ago. It's just getting the work done. So, but I thank you. Thank you for the invite, man. This is great.
No,
I really
this is great,
appreciate
man. I
It's
love it.
great.
It's
awesome.
It's great. We could sit here, I'm telling you, we'll have to do it again because I feel like we could talk even longer. So
Let's do it. I'm down.
All
I'd
right.
love to.
Yep. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for being here. And tune in for more of these episodes of Shaping Success Treasure Valley. If you'd like to be on the show, DM me, shoot me an email, wes@westankersley.com. We'll get you on there. This is brought to you by my business, Shade Bros. So if you need window coverings in the Treasure Valley, please give me a call, 208-99-SHADE, and we will get you taken care of.